Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff, Mosher, Adam Caplan. We are going to continue our two-part series here looking at Eagles as they go into free agency a week away. We're going to go through the defense. We're going to go through the areas position group by position group and sort of talk about where the landscape is, what they're going to need based on what we expect the team to look at. Of course, there could always be some, big surprises, Adam. But I think we have a pretty general idea of what the Eagles are going to need as they get into free agency. Because we've spent so much time talking about who they're going to lose and not who they're going to gain, or we haven't really gone position by position to give people up until, the first pod that came out where we did offense, what the landscape actually looks like.
Yeah, it's offensively, as we went inside what it looked like as of now and what it could look like. Defensively, comparatively, it's that they have the needs are more numerous. There are a lot of moving parts, potential retirements, releases, resign versus no resign, and then are the younger guys ready for bigger roles? So there's a lot going on in defense, probably a little bit more than I imagined when you and I put the show together. So it's interesting because if you look at certain positions, like edge and free agency is a bunch of mid-level free agents. That's really what it is. Now, of course, you could trade for somebody. That's a different story. But in terms of guys who are unrestricted free agents, defensive tackle, it's not a bad group. ILB, there are a ton of them. A lot of mid-level free agents, but there are a lot of them. Cornerback, it's super top-heavy. Other than DJ Reed, it's a lot. There are like 5 or 6 decent mid-level guys who maybe need a fresh start. We'll see what happens, but it's not a great overall. It's just not a great free agency. If you're going to strike, you're going to do it via trade, or you're going to draft some guys.
Now, I have a great question for you, and it's going to probably jog your memory a little bit in a good way, because Howie's gotten a lot of great credit, as he deserves, for putting together great rosters and doing well in free agency.
Yep.
If I say remove Zach Bond from the conversation, who is the best defensive free agent that Howie has signed over the past, give it 5 years?
Oh boy. Well, I see it's almost subjective because you got to look at numbers. Like Hargrave did very well.
He did do very well.
A lot of money.
Would probably be the guy.
Yeah, that was a really good one. He got did the Niners overpay him, but hey, it's free agency.
Sure.
That's a great question. The last 4 or 5 years.
By the way, the Niners did get to the Super Bowl there the first year with Hargrave. So, I mean, that was like, they had 12.5 sacks, I think, and a bunch of
$20 million a year. But he doesn't play the run.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's there to get pressure, but yeah, he's just not a great all-around player. But that's a tough one. But nothing will beat Bond because nobody had any expectations.
Right.
He was a lower level free agent.
Mm-hmm.
They signed to be a backup edge rusher and play special teams and be a fourth outside backer. He's an edge rusher. Mm-hmm. Because Vic doesn't want to call him a backer. Other teams would call him a linebacker, but Vic called him an edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they sort of signed him as, a quasi inside linebacker, edge rusher. Then he just moved to inside it, strictly inside backer. Then a little bit of edge, situationally, very little.
Mm-hmm.
But because those are the ones you signed him to just be. You weren't thinking he'd be anything but that. But I thought the Isaiah Rodgers signing was really interesting. You got to give Howie credit for that. That was one where the guy didn't play, but he stayed in shape, did a great job there, and he had been the king of free agency. Now Howie's gotten it right in the draft, but he's got some challenges here. This is, he said last week at the Combine about keeping this thing going.
Yeah,
and sometimes when he says that, maybe something significant happens. You never know.
Yeah, I think after Javon Hargrave, which was clearly a great free agent signing. And again, we're removing Zach Bond just for the fun of it because that sort of came out of nowhere. But probably Marcus Epps, another guy who sort of came out of nowhere, became a good starter on a team that went to the Super Bowl. But you probably find a little bit more misses on defense in free agency, whether it's Devin White or Terrell Edmonds or who's the corner, Greedy Williams. They signed.
They
they had good intentions coming off their first Super Bowl with guys like Malik Jackson and Haloti Ngata. It just didn't work out. They never really found that. They had Bradley Roby, last year for the nickel. Just
they were patchworking it.
Has really saved them. Go ahead.
But they were really This is when Howie was, the dart throws it inside backer.
Yep.
It didn't work out. What's that?
Eric Wilson, Kaiser White, Jatavius. Who's the guy who retired?
Was it Jatavius Brown?
Jatavius Brown. Yeah. It's just kind of interesting. I mean, they've sort of struggled in defensive free agency over the last few years, but Bond really makes everybody forget about that. And of course, they did a great job with Javon Hargrave while he was an Eagle. And Epps was pretty good. Yeah,
I would say Kaiser White did a good job for most of that season 2 years ago.
Yeah, he was okay. Yeah,
did a decent job. No, the great one. No, actually, you missed one.
Oh, I knew it. Who did I think of?
But was he? I think he was. Wasn't he? Hassan was a free agent. Wasn't Hassan Reddick a free agent?
Oh yes, that's a good one. That is a very good one.
And Gardner Johnson. Now he did great his first year. That was a trade, by the way. So if you just want to talk about signings,
that's why I put that him and Slay. Right. I put aside.
Right. Yeah. Slay was a great signing. But Reddick was. It's just funny. I don't know what the Panthers were thinking. Well, I do know what it was actually. Matt Rule, who coached him in college, he kind of made the call. He kind of made the call there. He decided that he wanted to move on, as I understand it at the time, that to move on from him, which was a mistake. Obviously, he was great for the 1 year. For that 1 year, he was great. Then 2 years ago, he kind of dropped off. But yeah, it's free agency could be somewhat of a crapshoot because you're signing another team's players. Mm-hmm. It's not always easy because you're changing schemes. But for Hassan, the scheme was so good because he was a stand-up pass rusher. That's the kind of scheme they were running.
Right.
And we'll see what happens here. We'll have more opinions on free agency in terms of what's out there. But the Eagles they got more needs than you think.
All right, so let's talk about that. This episode is supposed to be about the defense and where the Eagles are headed. Let's start with edge, because this is really not only the most important position really on the Eagles defense, but it's in a state of flux now. I mean, you have Bryce Huff, and we'll have to see what happens with him. Josh Sweat, who's going to be out there in free agency. Brandon Graham, who has not – I don't think Brandon has officially yet committed to either retiring or coming back. So I know he's sort of dropping like hints here and there, but he has not officially said anything. So right now you're kind of going to next year knowing you got Nolan Smith, you have Jalix Hunt. There's obviously a lot of smoke around the Eagles with Myles Garrett, but as of right now, Adam, edge is an area that they're going to address some way or another.
Potentially significantly. It doesn't have to be Garrett. It could be in a trade for another guy who they do their homework on. It's like when they got Gardner Johnson, Howie does what he's exceptional at, maybe the best in the National Football League. He checks in, as he did with A.J. Brown 3 years ago now. It'll be 3 years in April. And, he was told on A.J. Brown, not available. They're looking to get an extension done, and he's had a good working relationship over the years with John Robinson, the former GM now of the Titans. He kept checking back. He checked back the week of the draft, and Robinson said, "Hey, you know what? Let's talk about this further." And then Howie, as he does, he's great at it. He followed up. And some GMs will tell me he's relentless sometimes when he wants stuff. And with Gardner Johnson, getting back to that, I mean that's something that he knew that the Saints were declining to extend his contract. And they didn't give him a lot for him. It turned out to be a home run decision. That was, and if CJ was more reasonable 2 years ago, he would have been an Eagle then. Now, but Howie got him back. He had a very good year, and it's just the reason why Howie's so much better than he was like 4 or 5 years ago, particularly in 2020. It's the information he's getting, the football character stuff. That is probably the most underrated part of the turnaround Howie's had in his career. Is the job that he's done in the draft. Mm-hmm. And free agency and football character information gathering. I don't know if it's his people. I don't know what it is. Only he would know. But the results are that you cannot win a Super Bowl. You can't just win it with talent. Look at the Cowboys, folks. They draft a lot of talented players. They never win anything. It's the football character, folks. That means a lot. And coach.
100%. Let's look at defensive tackle. Where do you see them going here? I mean, obviously they have Jalen Carter. As we sit here today, you would think that depending on down and distance, you've got either Jordan Davis next to you. I'm sorry. Yeah, Jordan Davis or Moro Ojomo.
Going to be a Jomo, for sure.
Yeah, Ojomo. And this all really, again, depends on what happens with Milton Williams.
Yes. Well, let's put it this way. Barring a surprise, I expect Sweat and Milton Williams to walk. Just because not that the Eagles don't want him back, it's just what's out there. Though D tackle is deeper, Milton is arguably the best free agent at that position. That money, they're all getting over $20 million right now. That one, if it goes like I think it'll get, he may want to see if Osa Odigizua gets the Cowboys think they're going to get this done. He's a really underrated player. We don't talk about him much. Good football player. It's everyone else is mid-level. There are a lot of good mid-level free agents. Milton Williams is a terrific football player. That deal I could see 21 million plus. And see, that's the problem with the Eagles because, as we were discussing a couple of weeks ago, much as they like to have him back, Jalen Carter is up for renewal after the season. You know the Eagles love extending guys early. You tie up potentially 27 to 30 million a year for Jalen Carter. That's where that money's going. Then extending Nolan Smith's deal. We're talking about their front seven. Milton Williams, Carter, Nolan Smith are up. Nolan's looking at a deal in that range, high 20s. That's where the money's going. That's just the bottom line. That's where you're headed here. Right. So it's just really hard. It's not about cap. It's about cash. How much cash are you going to tie up in your front? It's hard to do that.
So it would seem to me, based on what this organization is all about, is that if they're going to lose two guys in the front six, front or pass rush, and maybe three if Brandon Graham does, they're definitely at very least going to be looking at some veteran, like 1 year or 2 year type deal veterans, if not, or a bigger splash there.
Yeah.
Something for the long term and more impactful.
I would think it's a guy look, they could sign a unrestricted free agent veteran who's near the end of his career. But to me, to keep this thing going, you got to get younger, continue to get younger. They're now one of the youngest defenses, but you want to keep it young. The guys they handled their business very well. Jordan Davis did make some improvement. He did late in the season. Now, I know he's been very limited snaps. The coaches tell you that because they don't play him very much. This is year 4 for him. Hope is that he has his best offseason. Maybe they could play him 10% more than they did before, but he's not the answer yet. So Moro Ojomo, as we move on here, at tackle and then edge, we mentioned Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt. Boy, you want to see more of him.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the conversation to start, but it to me, it's just not good enough. That's why I could see a significant move here, whether it's a first-round pick, trading up for somebody, or making a trade for somebody. Not just the obvious one is Myles Garrett. And Andrew Berry, I give him credit. He puts on that poker face. He's like, no, we have no interest in trading him. It all sounds good, but if you're going to trade him, you're going to want to do it by the draft, because then you're headed for another Khalil Mack situation where the Raiders didn't make the trade till right before the season started. They got a pretty good haul, but the problem is the Bears turned out to be way better than they expected. I can tell you from talking to the Raiders in 2018, they thought the Bears would be terrible. They weren't. They made the playoffs.
That was the irony.
Be careful.
Yeah, you just never know what's going to happen to that team. That is true. That's true. But however, if some team's going to give you a haul and it's after the draft, you might be all right with the fact that it's a haul. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
Let's move on to stack linebacker or off the ball linebacker, inside linebacker. There's like 5 different names for that. But before we get there, our great listeners and viewers must hear a great word from our great friends, I should say, at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter makes sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
Folks, if you are looking for a car, whether you're buying or trading in, you are shortchanging yourself if you do not go in to Sky Motor Cars in Westchester, PA, or visit them at skymotorcars.com. Great inventory, great customer service, great people. It is the ultimate car shopping experience. I'm telling you, you're losing out. This is why a lot of Eagles deal with Sky Motor Cars, because and listen, people who have money like Eagles do and celebrities, they always demand a higher level of customer service, and that's exactly what Sky Motor Cars delivers.
I know. Yep, I know Q&A have gone there. I know they've mentioned it. Going back to Sheldon Brown, I know Sheldon's known Brett Scholder from a number of years. Brett's the owner. And yeah, I know Vontae Maddox has done ads for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
N'Kobe Dean, I believe, has done with them. Dickerson. There have been a bunch of guys who have done work with Sky, or talked to with Sky Motor Cars, had business relationships with them.
Yep,
love their cars.
Yep.
All right, again, skymotorcars.com. All right, let us talk about the inside linebacker. Again, this is all sort of contingent on what happens with Zach Baun. I feel like you get a good feeling that Baun's going to be back.
Not a lock.
No?
Not a lock. No, it's
no.
Yeah.
Just a vibe, a feeling.
Yes, and he wants to be back. They want him back. There's only one concern, and I'm going to give you these numbers because I was given this information on Roquan Smith. Just his contract is incredible. If Zach Baun's agent wants Roquan Smith money or close to it, that's a problem.
Yeah, well, that might be an overplay of the hand. I mean, I know that we know things can get crazy in free agency. We talk about Christian Kirk, but at least Christian Kirk was a wide receiver for many years who had improved each year. This is still, and I'm not taking anything away from Zach Baun, but I think 31 other teams still have to look at him as someone who is an overnight success, and you just don't know if he's scheme specific or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's going to be some sort of proceed with caution type of approach here. But again, all it takes is one team to be like, forget
that's
it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Once you get to market, once you get to Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, March 10th, 12 p.m. Eastern, you better have an agreement done. So I just got the feeling last week. Yes, it's the Eagles want him back. He wants to be back, and that's always good. But you never know when a guy gets out the market. Like, his agent could get an idea of what's out there for him. And the reason why I bring this up, there's such a drop off from Baun there are a lot of inside backers out there.
Mm-hmm.
But Nick Bolton's a good player. He's much smaller than Zach. Nick Bolton's technically under 6 feet.
Oh yeah.
But it's just a bunch of journeymen, a bunch of 1-year solutions. Boy, Zach Cunningham, you might have forgotten he was with Denver last season. I forgot he was in the NFL.
Was he? Was he on the 53?
Yes, he was. Yeah,
wow,
off and on.
I did not know that at all.
Yeah, I mean, but we didn't mention Oren Burks. Burks did a great job late in the season for the Eagles.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely. And I would think, and you would think that Oren Burks will factor into their plans as a backup either way, I would think, but especially if they lose Baun, you may want to make sure you've got Burks back.
Right. He's he's got size. He's a veteran who's played a lot, started a lot in this league, high character guy. The Roquan Smith deal, which averaged now it's I don't know if I call it backloaded, but the bottom line is it's actually not. I don't look at it backloaded, but the structure is so player friendly. I don't know who the Ravens were. I know they go back to front. They love being strong at inside backer. I understand that in their 34 front, but I mean it's just crazy. He was fully guaranteed $42.5 million over the first 2 years. That's insanity.
That is 42
inside backer.
Yeah, I mean he's awesome though. Remember, the inside backer in their defense is really important. They do more than just
I know.
Yeah,
but that deal was 2 years old. That's what worries me, because like the Byron Jones one, we brought this up before. The Eagles wanted him badly. He wanted to come here, but he made a decision that he was going to go. He wanted to go down to South Florida. That's okay. Eagles did a great job negotiating. It was no one's fault.
Right.
But bottom line is, Roquan Smith got paid by far the best inside backer contract in NFL history. The full guarantee at signing was insane. The structure was very player friendly. I can't see the Eagles doing anywhere close to a deal like that. The guy's off of 1 year. You can't be. I know it was a great story. It's a great dude, from what I understand.
Yep.
But you can't be giving him a Roquan Smith deal for 1 year. You got to be careful. So Howie's done a much better job being disciplined.
Yep.
He's been more willing to walk away from players. He walked away from C.J. Gardner-Johnson as badly as they wanted him back after 22. C.J. was unreasonable with what he wanted. I just wanted to bring that up because as much as I think there's a good chance he comes back, it's far from a lock. It is not a lock. I know there are a lot of people saying like he's definitely back, or we never give percentages. It's the biggest waste of time ever. Yeah, right. I'll never do that. I made a mistake like in 2002. I haven't done anything like that because it could change within 5 minutes. You could tape something and 5 minutes later it changes. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
But we just want to make you aware, and we'll go over as we go over this. When we get to the actual guys that are out there later this week, we'll go over some contracts per position, which will be eye-opening. He's not the only inside backer that got paid. He's the highest paid ever, but there's some other guys that got paid. You got to be careful here. It's not going to be easy to do a guy off of 1 year.
100, absolutely. Well said. Well said. All right, so let's get into the secondary, cornerback and safety.
Well, just real quick though. So just before we've got to talk about this. So right now, and you mentioned this earlier, they're really light at inside backer.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So Nakobe Dean, nobody has any idea when he'll be. We know it's somewhere around mid-season is most likely it. For him to come back earlier, he'd have to really be ahead of schedule. So let's put him to the side right now. It's too bad he got hurt. Ben Van Sumer had a major knee injury. He had surgery. So he also has to be tendered here as a exclusive rights free agent. So under contract right now, Dean injury, Trot Jr., who didn't play very much on defense. We know that they really like him. So right now, you could make a case for him to be a starter if Zach Bond doesn't come back. But guess what? They don't even have a second starter.
No, they're like one. If they had to play a game, they're like one bad injury, a hit away from like Dallas Gant having to get in there. So.
Did they bring him back? Yes, they did. They did resign him.
I think they have O'Shawn Mathis too, who has played both inside and outside of.
He's more of an edge, though, as I understand.
He is an edge, yeah. But I'm just saying, like, when your extremes come, that you may have to throw him in there. But this is an area, you're right, where I think that they'll be addressing in many ways.
But if the Bond thing goes belly up, I don't see them. I mean, it's how we're going to go back to the patchwork stuff. I don't know about that, but this was just, as you said earlier, it just came out of the sky. Nobody knew. And I know what Vic said. Hey, I saw something on tape, but Vic didn't know.
No, Vic said he didn't know that. Vic said, he had no idea. I was hoping. I never imagined.
Yeah, exactly right. So we'll see what happens. I just I'm not there yet on being there last week. I just when a couple of people pointed out to me, man, he goes, you got to be careful with these because that Roquan Smith. It's kind of like the McCaffrey deal. No one's ever gotten $17 million a year, which he signed years ago with the Panthers. No one's come close to it, and we may not see anyone get the Roquan Smith deal. We'll have to see.
All right, so now we'll go into the defensive backfield. As we talked about in other podcasts, I think the question is it definite that they move Cooper DeJean outside, or is it based on what they're able to get outside versus what they're able to get as a nickelback?
Yeah, and that sets up the whole – so free agency could be our first clue of what they're going to do. And they decide to sign, like, let's say DJ Reed, right, of the Jets, who's by far the best corner available for free agency. It's a bunch of guys who – been somewhat disappointing or been inconsistent, who are younger, by the way, but it's just not a great group overall. Mm-hmm. How many teams are really like Ward, the corner, Denzel Ward, I know a lot of fans have been asking about. Ward's had a significant injury history. Still pretty good, by the way. Still a good player. You worry about
right?
You have concussion history. You worry about that. It's like with Marcus Lattimore. You worry about Lattimore with the hamstring stuff. And remember, he came to the Commandos with that issue.
Yes,
but he didn't play right away. Marshawn,
that's correct.
Marshawn sat. He sat for a while, so it wasn't just he had to learn the scheme. His hamstring was still bothering him. So you got to be careful with this stuff.
100%. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Cooper DeJean. But I feel like regardless, I mean, because Rodgers is also a free agent, they're going to have to bring in some players here.
Yeah, I would. The way I understand it, Rodgers is definitely looking to start. So Now, could he be an option if they decide, DeShane was a dynamic nickel because he played he didn't just play slot. He did a bunch of different things for them. He was dominant in it. If they decide to keep him there, Rodgers could play, man. He's aggressive. He could return. He played through the wrist injury. He did miss a lot of time, by the way. It's pretty tough to be able to do what he was able to do. I know the Eagles were pretty happy with the way he performed. So let's see what happens here. Let's not eliminate him from coming back.
Right.
But we're going to get a big clue here on what they do in free agency, the type of free agent that they add. A guy like DJ Reed, you're already getting your answer. DeJean's nickel, that's happening. That new guy would be their outside corner, and there you go.
We've probably seen the last of Avonte Maddox. You never know. He might be brought back for some depth, but he'd have to make the 53. But
Yep.
Hey, if his last play as an Eagle is that pass breakup in the Super Bowl, and he won a Super Bowl with the Eagles and went to 2, it's been a pretty good career for Avonte. I've always liked Avonte. I think, the fans beat him up, and rightfully so. His last year and a half, he was hurt a lot, and he just wasn't the player that he used to be. But he was a pretty good player earlier in his career when he was good, and he made a really big play in the Super Bowl. So if he went out in style.
He did. He turns 29 at the end of the month here.
Wow. Feels like he has the body of a 35-year-old.
He's been so beat up. One of the better guys. He's just a really good person.
Awesome guy.
One of Dallas Goedert's best friends. We know they used to share a house together, apartment, whatever it is, in South Jersey.
They used to, I'm not sure.
We'll see what happens here. This is, you're right. They could wait. That's it. Now we'll see. We'll see if they release anybody other than Slay. And BG, look, the thing with BG, yes, he was terrific when healthy. Why put he doesn't need the money. He's I don't know, man. I don't know. Why would you come? He turns 37 in April. Why would you do it? I mean, it's one thing if they would have lost to Kansas City, I could see him wanting to come back.
Mm-hmm.
But man, and by the way, he played very well in the limited snaps he got. He looked really good.
Yeah, I don't know. Is maybe thinking if he can play 2 or 3 more years and rack up 28, 25 more sacks. Do you put win another Super Bowl? Do you put a gold jacket on him? He's never been
Eagles gold jacket. For sure, he'll go in the Hall of Fame.
That's already a given. My God, a statue to him. But I don't know. I'm just trying to think myself, what would be other than the fact that he's playing still at a really high level. I mean,
that's it. He loves it. They love him. I mean, he knew he wasn't going to get $10 million. He got $5 million, I think, last season, and based on the way he played, he's worth it. Definitely worth it.
I mean, the $5 million was looking like a bargain by week 11 until he got hurt. I mean, that was looking like a steal.
Well, that Rams game in LA was, I don't know. I mean, other than what Jalen Carter does every game, I don't know that we saw a more dominant. I mean, Zach Ball had some incredibly dominant games, but BG as an edge rusher last season at times, particularly that Rams game, and our Andrew DeCecco was there. He saw with his own eyes. It was pretty special. It was kind of like, how's he doing this at 36?
Right.
It's crazy.
So just to finish off the defensive backfield and get out of here, I just want to make sure I have it right. That Ricks is still under contract.
Yep.
Ringo is still under contract.
Yep.
Rookie deal.
Yep.
McCollum, yes, but he was claimed, right? At one point, he was claimed off waivers from the Texans, I think it was, or was he signed after being
he was signed? Yeah, the Texans declined to re-sign him to the practice squad. And then the Eagles just signed him to a future contract, and he's been on and off, the Eagles roster until last year. He actually made it and spent the entire season on the Eagles roster. Let me look up his contract real quick.
But this would have been the end of his 3rd NFL season, I believe, or second.
Yeah, he's actually signed. He signed a 2-year deal last January.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got $1.03 million, no guarantees. So he's signed through the season. So yeah, they don't have to worry about it. He's signed.
All right, good for that. Good. Because him and Sidney Brown, obviously, Sidney will be a big year for him next year.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that is the situation. We've done offense, we've done defense, and then, like we said, later this week, we'll proceed with some names that are out there, some names to watch for the Eagles.
Ones we've been hearing. Yep.
Yeah, as we've been hearing. As free agency, the tampering window, a part of it, will start on Monday. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in the Eagles Intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds. Be sure to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation.